The slap echoed before I even processed what happened. My sister Stephanie's hand against my daughter's face. Alexandra's scream. The Christmas tree lights blinking red and green like nothing was wrong. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My family sat frozen in their chairs, turkey growing cold, as if waiting for permission to react. Then I heard my husband's chair scrape against the hardwood. That sound I knew from 1,000 military dinners. The sound of a man who'd given orders in war zones. Dustin crossed the room in 3 steps, positioned himself between Stephanie and our daughter, and spoke 5 words that ended 20 years of her bullying. "You will never return here." Stephanie laughed, actually laughed, her perfectly manicured hand still raised, red imprint blooming on my 12-year-old daughter's cheek. "Oh, please, Dustin, you don't make decisions about this family. I do." She turned to our parents, Michelle and Frank, sitting at the head of the table. "Tell them, Daddy. Tell them who actually matters in this family." My father opened his mouth, closed it, looked at his wine glass like it held answers. That's when I stood up, smoothed my dress, walked to Alexandra and tilted her chin up, examining the mark. My daughter's eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying anymore. She was watching me with that same warrior focus Dustin had taught her. I kissed her forehead, then turned to face my sister. "Get out," I said. My voice didn't shake. Stephanie's smile widened. "This is my parents' house, Tiffany, not yours. You're just the disappointing daughter who married a military grunt and lives in that sad little rental across town." She glanced at my mother. "Isn't that right, Mom?" My mother's fork clinked against her plate. "Stephanie, maybe you should..." "Should what? Apologize? That little brat called me a bitch in front of everyone. She needed to learn respect." Stephanie turned back to me, eyes glittering with something I'd seen my whole life, that special cruelty she reserved just for me. Besides, we both know who's inheriting this house, who's inheriting everything. It's certainly not going to be the daughter who couldn't even finish college. My brother Jeremy shifted uncomfortably. His wife Jennifer stared at her lap. My cousins Brian and Eric exchanged glances. Everyone knew. Everyone had always known. Stephanie was the golden child, the successful real estate developer, the one who'd stayed close to home and played the perfect daughter. I was the screw-up who'd gotten pregnant at 19, married the first man who showed me kindness, and spent the last 20 years being reminded of my failures at every family gathering. "Alexandra," I said quietly, not taking my eyes off Stephanie, "go to your room upstairs. Take your presents with you." "Mom," I didn't call her. "I know, baby. Go." As Alexandra gathered her unopened gifts, Stephanie crossed her arms. "You're pathetic, you know that? Playing the martyr. You've been jealous of me since we were kids. Jealous that I'm successful, that I'm beautiful, that Mom and Dad actually love me." She leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear. "That's why you're always crawling back here, isn't it? Hoping they'll finally see you. But they won't. They never will." I smiled. Actually smiled. It caught her off guard. I saw the flicker of confusion cross her face. "You're right," I said. "They probably won't." I picked up my purse from the side table, pulled out my phone. But that's okay. I stopped needing their approval a long time ago. "Then why are you even here?" Stephanie sneered. "Tradition, I suppose." I scrolled through my phone, found what I was looking for. And because I wanted to give you something special this Christmas, I've been waiting for the right moment. I looked up at her. This feels right. The room had gone completely silent. Dustin stood near the doorway, Alexandra safely behind him, both watching me with expressions I couldn't quite read. My father had his hand on my mother's arm like he was preparing to hold her back from something. Brian and Eric had stopped eating entirely. "What are you talking about?" Stephanie's voice had lost some of its edge. I turned my phone around, showed her the screen, just for a second, just long enough for her eyes to widen. Then I pulled it back, tucked it into my purse. "Merry Christmas, Stephanie," I said. "Dustin? Alexandra? We're going home." As we walked toward the door, Stephanie's voice cracked across the room. "What was that? What did you show me?" I paused, hand on the doorknob. "Oh, just some old photographs. From a property inspection 2 years ago. The Morrison Street development. You remember that one, don't you? I glanced over my shoulder. The one where you assured the investors the foundation was solid? The color drained from her face. Tiffany, my father said, standing up. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything, Dad. I'm just saying. I opened the door, cold December air rushing in. It's interesting what you can find when you actually bother to look. When you're the disappointing daughter no one pays attention to, people forget you're even in the room. They forget you're listening. They forget you exist. You're bluffing, Stephanie said, but her hands were shaking. Maybe. I stepped out onto the porch, Dustin and Alexandra beside me. Guess you'll find out. Oh, and Stephanie, about that inheritance you mentioned? I smiled. I never wanted it anyway. You're welcome to it. All of it. Every single brick of this house and everything that comes with it. I closed the door on her stunned face. In the car, Alexandra finally spoke. Mom, what was on your phone? I adjusted the rearview mirror, caught Dustin's eyes. He was smiling. That rare, dangerous smile I'd only seen a handful of times in our 23 years together. Something I found 3 months ago, I said. When I was visiting your grandmother and she asked me to grab something from your grandfather's office. I wasn't snooping. I was just looking for an envelope and found a whole box of them instead. I pulled out of the driveway. Do you remember how Stephanie's company almost went bankrupt 2 years ago? How there were all those rumors about the Morrison Street building having structural problems, but they were never proven? The one that collapsed 6 months later? Dustin asked quietly. The very same. Nobody died, thank God, but the lawsuits nearly destroyed her. Except she managed to settle everything quietly, paid everyone off, and the whole thing disappeared. I turned onto the main road. What nobody knew, what nobody could prove, was that she'd seen the inspector's original report, the real one. The one that said the foundation was compromised and the building was dangerous. She buried it, showed the investors a falsified report instead, and pushed the project through because she needed that commission to cover her gambling debts. The car was very quiet. How do you know about the gambling? Alexandra asked. Because Stephanie's not as smart as she thinks she is. Because I spent the last 3 months tracking every receipt, every bank statement, every contract I could find. Because I learned a long time ago that the best way to survive in this family was to be invisible. And invisible people see everything. I glanced at my daughter in the rearview mirror, and because the one thing Stephanie never understood is that I'm not weak. I'm patient. What are you going to do? Dustin's voice was calm, but I heard the steel underneath. I'm going to give her exactly what she deserves. I pulled into our driveway, our small, sad little rental house that Stephanie loved to mock. The house we'd turned into a home. The house where we'd raised our daughter with love instead of cruelty. But not tonight. Tonight, we're going to have our own Christmas. We're going to eat the cookies Alexandra made, watch stupid movies, and forget that horrible people exist. And tomorrow? Alexandra asked. She was smiling now, my fierce, brilliant daughter who'd just learned the most important lesson I could teach her. Tomorrow, I said, we start making phone calls. The morning after Christmas, I woke up at 5. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because I had work to do. Dustin was already in the kitchen, coffee brewing, laptop open on the table. I made a list, he said, sliding a notepad toward me. Everyone who needs to know. Everyone who can make this hurt. I scanned his methodical handwriting. State licensing board, building inspector's office, the investors from Morrison Street, the families who'd lived in that building, local news stations. He'd even included the contact information for Stephanie's biggest competitor, a woman named Patricia Marbles, who Stephanie had spent years bad-mouthing at industry events. You've been busy, I said. I spent 20 years in military intelligence, Tiff. You think I didn't notice you collecting evidence these past 3 months? I've been doing my own digging. He turned his laptop around. Spreadsheets, bank records, emails he'd somehow obtained. Your sister's been running a scheme for years. Morrison Street wasn't the first building. It was just the worst one. My hands started shaking. Not from fear, from rage I'd been swallowing for 2 decades. How many? I asked. 4 that I can confirm. Small violations on the others. Things that wouldn't collapse a building, but definitely violated code. She's been paying off inspectors, falsifying reports, cutting corners to maximize profit. He paused. The gambling debts are worse than you thought. She's into a loan shark for $240,000, due next month. I sat down hard. $240,000. No wonder she'd been so vicious lately, so desperate to secure that inheritance. She needed money. Badly. She slapped our daughter, I said quietly. I know. Dustin's jaw tightened. That's why we're not stopping until she has nothing left. At 8, my phone rang. Jeremy. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. Finally, I answered. Tiffany, what the hell did you say to Stephanie? She's been calling me all night. Completely hysterical, saying you have something on her. I do. Silence. Jeremy, did you know? I asked. About Morrison Street? About the falsified reports? What are you talking about? Yes or no? Did you know our sister committed fraud that could have killed people? Jesus, Tiffany, you can't just throw around accusations. So that's a no. Good. Then you won't be implicated when I take this to the authorities. I hung up. He called back immediately. I blocked him. Michelle called next. I blocked her too. Then Frank. Blocked. Jennifer sent a text begging me to think about the family. I deleted it without responding. The only person I didn't block was Stephanie. I wanted her to be able to reach me. I wanted her to feel every second of panic. By noon, Dustin and I had compiled everything into a single document. Photographs of the original Morrison Street inspection report showing foundation cracks. Bank statements showing payments to the inspector who'd signed off on the falsified version. Emails between Stephanie and her accountant discussing how to hide the gambling losses. Security footage from the casino showing her there 3 times a week for the past year. Who do we send it to first? I asked. Dustin smiled grimly. The investors. Let them know they have grounds for a massive lawsuit. Once that starts, everything else falls like dominoes. I attached the document to an email, typed carefully. Regarding Morrison Street development, information you need to see. A concerned citizen. My finger hovered over send. She's going to destroy herself trying to fight this, Dustin said. The legal fees alone will bankrupt her. Good. I hit send. 3 hours later, Stephanie showed up at our door. I watched through the window as she stumbled out of her Mercedes, makeup smeared, still wearing yesterday's clothes. She'd been crying. I almost didn't recognize her. My perfect sister, always so composed, now looking like she'd been through a war. I opened the door before she could knock. Please, she said, voice hoarse. Please, Tiffany, whatever you're doing, stop. I'll apologize to Alexandra. I'll make it right. You slapped my daughter, I said, in my parents' house, in front of everyone, and not one person defended her except my husband. I know, I was wrong, I'm sorry. You called her a brat. You said she needed to learn respect. From you. The woman who's been stealing from investors and endangering lives for profit. Her face crumpled. How did you... Does it matter? I leaned against the door frame. Here's what's going to happen, Stephanie. Those investors, they received some very interesting documents this morning. By now, they've probably called their lawyers. By tomorrow, you'll be served. By next week, every news station in the state will know your name. You can't do this. I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister years ago. You've spent 2 decades making me feel worthless, telling me I was nothing, that I didn't matter. I smiled. Turns out the nothing daughter is the one who knows everything. I'll tell them you stole those documents, that you fabricated them. Go ahead. The originals are in Dad's office. In that box you asked him to hide for you 3 years ago. The one you thought nobody would ever find, because nobody pays attention to anything I do. I watched her face go white. Except I do pay attention. I've been paying attention my whole life. She grabbed my arm. Tiffany, please, I'm begging you. I'll lose everything. I pulled away. You should have thought about that before you put your hands on my child. It was just a slap. Kids get disciplined. Get off my property. Tiffany, now. She stood there, shaking, mascara running down her cheeks. For the first time in my life, I saw her clearly. Not the perfect golden child, not the successful businesswoman, just a desperate woman who'd finally run out of people to manipulate. I could destroy you too, she whispered. I could tell everyone about the pregnancy, about how you trapped Dustin, about how a 19-year-old girl got pregnant and married a good man who loved her, about how we built a life together, about how we raised a daughter who has more integrity in her little finger than you have in your entire body. I stepped closer. Go ahead. Tell everyone. See if anyone cares about ancient history when they're reading about your fraud charges. She crumpled onto my porch steps, sobbing. I went inside and locked the door. Through the window, I watched her sit there for 20 minutes before finally dragging herself back to her car. She tried to call me 4 times from the driveway. I didn't answer. Just watched her break down behind the wheel before eventually driving away. Dustin came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. You okay? He asked. I'm perfect, I said, and I meant it. The lawsuit hit 3 days later. Christmas Eve, Stephanie had been worth millions. December 28th, she was served with papers demanding $18 million in damages. I know because Jeremy called me screaming about it. I'd unblocked him specifically for this. You did this. You vindictive, selfish... Careful, I said. I'm recording this call. He stopped mid-rant. Let me explain something, Jeremy. I didn't do anything except tell the truth. Stephanie committed fraud. She endangered lives. She got caught. Those aren't my actions. They're hers. She's our sister. And Alexandra is my daughter, your niece, the child you watched get assaulted and said nothing. I heard him breathing hard on the other end. Where were you, Jeremy? When Stephanie's hand connected with her face? When she screamed? Where was the uncle who's supposed to protect her? It wasn't my place. Exactly. It wasn't your place, so this isn't your place either. I hung up. That night, the first news story broke. Local station, 10 o'clock news. Real estate developer faces fraud allegations in building collapse. They didn't name Stephanie yet. The investigation was ongoing, but they had footage of Morrison Street, the pile of rubble where a building once stood, interviews with families who'd lost everything. I recorded it, saved it to 3 different drives. By New Year's Eve, 2 more investors had joined the lawsuit. The state licensing board had opened an investigation. And Stephanie's largest current project, a downtown condo development worth $12 million, had ground to a halt when the investors pulled out. Michelle finally showed up at our house on January 2nd. I'd been expecting her. You need to stop this, she said. Not hello, not how are you? Just straight to demanding I protect her golden child. Stop what? I was repotting plants in the living room, didn't even look up. Whatever you're doing to Stephanie, these lawsuits, these investigations, you have to make them go away. I can't make them go away, Mom. I'm not a judge. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm just a woman whose daughter got slapped at Christmas dinner. It was a mistake. Stephanie was stressed. About her gambling debts? About the fraud she committed? About the building she let collapse because she needed commission money? I finally looked at my mother. Really looked at her. She'd aged 10 years in a week. What exactly would you like me to do? Talk to those investors. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was deliberate fraud. You don't know that. I stood up, wiped dirt from my hands, walked to my office and returned with a manila folder, dropped it on the coffee table. That's a copy of the original Morrison Street inspection report, the one that said the foundation was compromised, the one Stephanie hid. I tapped the folder. Next page is the falsified report she showed investors. Notice the signatures don't match? That's because she paid someone to forge it. Next page is her bank statement showing the payment. Michelle's hands trembled as she opened the folder. Page 7 is her casino records. Page 9 is the loan shark's payment schedule. Page 12 is an email where she explicitly tells her accountant to hide the losses from her business partners. I sat back down. I didn't create any of this, Mom. I just found it. And I couldn't stay quiet about it anymore. She's your sister. She assaulted my daughter. It was one slap. It was 20 years of cruelty that culminated in her putting her hands on my child. My voice rose for the first time. Do you know what she said to me after she hit Alexandra? She said the brat needed to learn respect. She called my daughter, your granddaughter, a brat for defending herself against Stephanie's bullying. Michelle's face was pale. Tiffany, please. She'll go to prison. Maybe she should. How can you say that? How can you be so cold? I laughed. Actually laughed. Cold? I've spent my entire life being invisible in this family. You want to know what cold is? Cold is watching your daughter get hit and having your own parents say nothing. Cold is 20 years of being told you're a disappointment while your sister commits actual crimes and everyone covers for her. Cold is knowing that even now, even with all this evidence, you're here defending her instead of asking if your granddaughter is okay. Of course I care about Alexandra. Have you called her, visited her, sent a text? I waited. No? Then don't stand in my house and tell me you care. Michelle stood up, shaking. When this destroys our family, I hope you can live with yourself. This family destroyed itself decades ago, Mom. I just stopped pretending otherwise. She left without another word. That night, Alexandra asked me if I was okay. I'm better than okay, baby, I said, braiding her hair before bed. I'm free. Are Grandma and Grandpa going to hate us now? Maybe, probably. I kissed the top of her head. But you know what? We don't need people who choose cruelty over kindness. We don't need people who think family means protecting abusers instead of protecting children. I'm not sorry for what I said to Aunt Stephanie, Alexandra said quietly, at dinner, when she was talking about you. I called her a bully, not a bitch. She lied about that. My hand stilled in her hair. I know, sweetheart. I never thought you said that word. Are you mad I stood up for you? I turned her around, held her face in my hands. I have never been more proud of anything in my entire life. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. The next morning, Patricia Marbles called me. Stephanie's competitor. The woman Dustin had put on his list. Mrs. Henderson, this is Patricia Marbles from Marbles Development. I received some very interesting information from an anonymous source yesterday. I wanted to verify its authenticity with you. What kind of information? I asked carefully. Documentation regarding Morrison Street and several other properties. Building code violations, falsified inspection reports, financial fraud. She paused. The source suggested you might be able to confirm whether these documents are legitimate. They are. I see. And you're comfortable going on record with that? Absolutely. Good. Because I'm meeting with the State Attorney General's office tomorrow. They're very interested in these documents. Very interested in criminal charges. Another pause. Ms. Henderson, I want you to know what your sister did endangered lives. She made legitimate developers like me look bad. She undermined public trust in our entire industry. Thank you for bringing this forward. After we hung up, I sat very still. Criminal charges. Not just lawsuits. Prison. Dustin found me sitting there 20 minutes later. You okay? He asked. She's going to prison, I said. Stephanie, she's actually going to prison. Yes. Mom said I should feel guilty, that I'm destroying the family. Dustin crouched in front of me, took my hands. Tiffany, look at me. You didn't destroy anything. You protected our daughter. You exposed crimes that could have killed people. You did the right thing. Then why do I feel like this? Like what? Like I should feel worse than I do. I looked at him. I don't feel guilty, Dustin. I feel satisfied. Is that wrong? He smiled. No. That's justice. The indictment came down on January 15th. 8 counts of fraud, 4 counts of falsifying documents, 2 counts of bribery. The state attorney held a press conference. Stephanie's name and photo were on every news channel in the state. I watched from our living room, Alexandra doing homework at the table, Dustin making dinner. We'd become a fortress, the 3 of us. The rest of the family had fractured. Jeremy refused to speak to me. Jennifer sent passive-aggressive texts about forgiveness. Michelle and Frank had stopped calling entirely. I didn't care. On the screen, Stephanie was led out of her downtown office in handcuffs. Her lawyer, some expensive guy in a $1,000 suit, kept trying to block the cameras. But I saw her face, saw the exact moment she spotted the reporters. She looked right at the camera, mascara running, hair disheveled. Nothing like the perfect sister who'd ruled every family gathering for 2 decades. "Mom?" Alexandra said quietly. "She looks scary." "She is scary, baby. That's why we had to stop her." The news anchor was talking about bail, set at $500,000, about her assets being frozen pending the civil suits, about the casino releasing statements that yes, Ms. Henderson had been a frequent customer, and yes, she'd been cut off 3 months ago for unpaid markers. My phone buzzed. "Frank," I answered. "This is your fault," he said. No preamble. "Your sister is in jail because of you." "No, Dad. Stephanie is in jail because she committed crimes. You could have handled this privately. Family business should stay in the family. She hit my daughter, in your house, while you sat there and did nothing." I kept my voice level. "That stopped being family business the moment you chose to protect her instead of Alexandra. We raised you better than this." "No, you didn't. You raised me to be invisible, to accept whatever cruelty Stephanie dished out, to believe I didn't matter. I watched Stephanie on the screen, being pushed into a police car. But I do matter. My daughter matters. And I'm done pretending otherwise. If you don't retract your statements to the Attorney General, you're no longer welcome in this family." "Good," I said, and hung up. Dustin had stopped cooking, was watching me with that careful expression. "They disowned me," I said. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Free," I said finally. "I feel free." That night, Stephanie made bail. Some loan shark apparently posted it. Probably the same one she owed $240,000. The news reported she'd put up her house as collateral. By morning, there was a new story. The loan shark was calling in the debt. Stephanie had 72 hours to pay or she'd lose everything. I didn't feel bad. I felt victorious. Jeremy showed up at our door that afternoon. I almost didn't answer, but Alexandra was home from school and I didn't want her to hear him yelling through the door. "What?" I said, not inviting him in. "You have to help her." His eyes were red. "Tiffany, please. She's going to lose her house. She's going to prison. The legal fees are destroying her. You have to stop this." "I can't stop it, Jeremy. It's out of my hands." "You started it." "No, Stephanie started it when she committed fraud, when she slapped my daughter, when she spent 20 years treating me like garbage." I crossed my arms. "Where's Jennifer? Why isn't she here begging for Stephanie?" "She thinks." He trailed off. "She thinks what?" "She thinks Stephanie deserves this." He looked broken. "Everyone thinks Stephanie deserves this except Mom and Dad. They're talking about selling their house to pay her legal fees. That's their choice. How can you be so heartless?" "Because my heart belongs to my daughter, not to a woman who hurt her." I started to close the door. Stephanie made her choices. Now she lives with them. "When did you become so cold?" I paused. Looked at my brother, my older brother who'd never protected me, never stood up for me, never chosen me over Stephanie. "I'm not cold, Jeremy. I'm done burning myself to keep other people warm." I closed the door. That night, the loan shark foreclosed on Stephanie's house. By morning, the news was reporting she was homeless, staying in a cheap motel, unable to find work because no one would hire someone under indictment for fraud. Patricia Marbles called me again. "The Attorney General wants you to testify at the trial," she said. "Would you be willing?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "It could get ugly. Stephanie's lawyer will try to make you look vindictive. They'll bring up your past, your pregnancy, anything they can use to discredit you. Let them try. You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." The trial started in March. I took the stand on day 4, wearing the navy dress Dustin had bought me, professional, composed, Everything Stephanie had always claimed I wasn't. Her lawyer started immediately. Mrs. Henderson, isn't it true you have a history of conflict with your sister? Yes. Isn't it true she's been more successful than you professionally? Yes. Isn't it true you dropped out of college after getting pregnant at 19? Yes. So wouldn't you say you had motivation to see your sister fail? I looked directly at Stephanie. She was thinner now, haunted. Nothing like the confident woman who'd slapped my daughter 4 months ago. No, I said. I had motivation to protect my daughter from an abuser. I had motivation to expose crimes that endangered innocent people. My personal feelings about Stephanie are irrelevant to the fact that she falsified inspection reports and committed fraud. But you admit you dislike your sister. I admit I don't respect people who hurt children and commit crimes. If that makes me biased, so be it. The prosecutor stood up during redirect. Mrs. Henderson, can you explain how you discovered these documents? I was visiting my parents. My mother asked me to get an envelope from my father's office. I found a box of documents that didn't belong there. Documents related to my sister's business dealings. When I saw what they contained, I felt obligated to report them. Why did you feel obligated? Because people were hurt when that building collapsed. Because my sister knew it was unsafe and pushed the project through anyway. Because staying silent would make me complicit in her crimes. Did you ever consider confronting your sister privately? No. Why not? I looked at Stephanie again. She was crying silently, mascara streaming down her face. Because she'd already proven she was willing to hurt people to get what she wanted. Because I knew she'd manipulate the situation, destroy evidence, or find a way to make it disappear like she always did. Because I was tired of protecting a woman who'd spent 2 decades making my life miserable. Your witness. Stephanie's lawyer tried again. So you admit this was personal. Everything is personal when someone assaults your child. But the evidence speaks for itself. My feelings don't change the fact that my sister committed crimes. I testified for 3 hours, showed the documents, explained the timeline, remained calm while Stephanie's lawyer tried to rattle me. When I finally stepped down, I caught Dustin's eye in the gallery. He nodded once. Pride. The verdict came 2 weeks later. Guilty on all counts. Stephanie's bail was revoked. She was taken into custody immediately. As they led her out, she looked at me, mouthed something. I couldn't tell if it was "I'm sorry" or "I hate you." I didn't care either way. Sentencing was scheduled for May. The prosecutor told me to expect 8 to 12 years. I went home and made dinner, helped Alexandra with her homework, watched a movie with my family. Michelle called that night. Are you happy now? She sobbed. Your sister is going to prison. Our family is destroyed. Are you satisfied? Yes, I said honestly. I am. You're a monster. Maybe, but I'm a monster who protects her child. I paused. Mom. Stephanie slapped Alexandra so hard she had a handprint on her face for 3 days. She called her a brat. She spent 20 years making me feel worthless. And when I finally stood up to her, when I finally said, enough, you chose her. You chose the abuser over the victim. So yes, I'm satisfied. Because I'd rather be a monster who does the right thing than a coward who enables cruelty. Michelle hung up. I blocked her number. At sentencing, Stephanie's lawyer begged for leniency, talked about her mental health struggles, her gambling addiction, her difficult childhood. The judge wasn't swayed. Ms. Henderson, you endangered lives for profit. You showed no remorse until you were caught. You attempted to intimidate witnesses and destroy evidence. This court sentences you to 12 years in state prison, followed by 5 years probation. You will also pay full restitution to the victims, totaling $18 million. Stephanie collapsed. Her lawyer caught her. As they led her away, she turned one last time, found me in the gallery. I didn't look away, didn't flinch, just watched as the door closed behind her. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I gave one statement. Justice was served today. My sister committed crimes that hurt innocent people. She showed no remorse until she faced consequences. I hope this sends a message that no one, no matter how successful or well-connected, is above the law. And I hope my daughter knows that standing up to bullies, even family members, is always the right choice. That night, Jeremy sent one final text. I hope you can live with yourself. I replied, I can. Can you? He didn't respond. Frank and Michelle put their house on the market 2 days later. The proceeds would go towards Stephanie's restitution payments, though it wouldn't make a dent in the $18 million she owed. I didn't call them, didn't visit, just let them sell the house where Stephanie had slapped my daughter and finally cut them out of my life completely. 3 years later, I'm sitting in our new house. Not the rental Stephanie used to mock, a real house. One Dustin and I bought after he got promoted. Alexandra is 15 now, thriving in school, playing varsity soccer, planning for college. We never heard from Michelle or Frank again. They moved to Arizona last year, closer to Jeremy, closer to the son who'd stayed loyal. Stephanie's in prison. She'll be there for another 9 years. I don't think about her much anymore. Sometimes Alexandra asks if I have regrets, if I wish things had turned out differently. The answer is always no. Last week, Patricia Marbles offered me a job, project manager for her development company. She said I had an eye for detail that her industry desperately needed, that someone who could catch fraud before it happened was worth their weight in gold. I start next month. Dustin says I should be proud, that I turned the worst moment of my life into an opportunity, but the truth is simpler than that. I'm not proud of destroying my sister. I'm not proud of tearing apart my family. I'm not celebrating anyone's suffering. I'm just satisfied. Satisfied that my daughter knows I'll protect her no matter what. Satisfied that dangerous buildings aren't collapsing anymore because Stephanie's not cutting corners. Satisfied that I finally stood up to 2 decades of bullying and abuse and refused to back down. Yesterday, Alexandra came home with a school project, an essay about heroes. She wrote about me. My mom taught me that being kind doesn't mean being weak. She read aloud at dinner. She taught me that sometimes love means protecting people from those who hurt them, even if those people are family. She taught me that justice isn't always pretty, but it's always necessary. I cried reading that. Happy tears. Dustin squeezed my hand under the table. You did good, he whispered. I know I did. Sometimes I drive past my parents' old house. The new owners painted it yellow, put in a garden. It looks nothing like the place where Stephanie slapped my daughter. I don't miss it. Last month, Jennifer reached out, said Jeremy was divorcing her, said he blamed her for not supporting him during the Stephanie situation, said she wished she'd been braver back then, wished she'd defended Alexandra. I thanked her for the message but told her I wasn't interested in rekindling anything. Some bridges once burned should stay ashes. My life is smaller now, quieter. Just Dustin, Alexandra, and me. A few close friends, colleagues, people who chose us, who stood by us, who believed protecting a child was more important than protecting a criminal. I don't have extended family anymore. Don't have big holiday dinners or family reunions. I have peace. And honestly, that's worth more than all of Stephanie's stolen millions ever could be. This morning, Alexandra asked what I wanted for my birthday next week. Nothing, I said. I already have everything I need. She hugged me tight. I'm glad you're my mom. I'm glad you're my daughter. Dustin joined the hug, wrapping us both in his arms. This is my family now. These 2 people who chose love over cruelty, who stood by me when everyone else walked away, who never once asked me to sacrifice my daughter's safety for the sake of family peace. Stephanie's in prison. Michelle and Frank are in Arizona. Jeremy's getting divorced. And I'm here, in my house, with my family, living my life. They called me cold, heartless, vindictive. Maybe I am. But I'm also free, and my daughter is safe. And sometimes that's all that matters.